This podcast and this week's session opens with a single idea. It's a notion which is deceptively simple, but is also one which, I think, is one of the most significant concepts ever articulated in learning theory. For me, the principle is something of a foundational commitment, on which the rest of pedagogy is constructed. It enables effective practice and encourages learning which is deep, rich and meaningful. It's also a cornerstone of politically committed practice, that which humanises, liberates and enables those with whom it operates. This really important but fundamentally simple principle comes from the work of David Ausubel, and it goes like this. The most important factor in learning is what the learner already knows. And in this podcast I'd like to talk to you a bit about why I think this notion is both important and radical. It's easy to miss the groundbreaking nature of Ausubel's argument, perhaps because it's apparently so simple. However, it serves as an important reminder that the starting point of any learning process lies in existing knowledges and understandings, which are refined and developed. In this sense, it's a warning against the impulse to focus too heavily on endpoints, and the easy drift into an emphasis on curriculum outcomes. This content-driven model conceptualises learning as a process by which the individual is gradually filled up with ideas and concepts which other people, whether politicians, teachers or university lecturers, have decided are important and significant. The Brazilian educationalist Paulo Freire calls this the banking model, because it's based on a sense of teachers depositing information in the minds of children. This approach is essentially dehumanising, he says, because it casts the learner as passive and obedient. It emphasises the importance of external authorities as sources of knowledge and understanding, and therefore renders the learner powerless. Ausubel's break from this tendency, though, is made on practical and pedagogic principles, rather than political ones. Put simply, he suggests that this isn't the way that learning works, and it isn't how concepts and ideas work. Learning is a cumulative process, in which simple ways of understanding the world are gradually refined as our mental maps or schemata increase in sophistication. No new understanding can exist in isolation. It needs something to connect to, in order to make sense. Without this connectivity, concepts fade into irrelevance. Whilst it's possible, for instance, to learn a series of facts and dates about the gunpowder plot, these notions only become vivid instances of learning where they're connected to existing experiences of bonfire night and to dramas of conspiracy. On one level, of course, this is a notion which is common sense amongst teachers. We know, for instance, that it's important to assess children's baseline understandings, and how crucial it is that we recognise and correct misconceptions. Most of us would go some way towards enlivening our lessons by appealing to pupils' experiences and prior knowledges of subject content. All of this, though, still tends towards the banking model. It places emphasis on content external to the learner, and draws on their knowledges only insofar as these provide leverage through which to deposit new knowledge. I'd like to suggest here, then, that Ausubel's call can be taken further, that it can be more resonant and powerful than it initially seems. If we're to take it seriously, then we must consider children holistically, and recognise that what they already know branches far beyond precursory understandings of curriculum subjects. We should recognise that children bring with them rich and vibrant bodies of experience, understanding and interest, and we should interrogate the ways in which education and we as teachers celebrate some aspects of this and marginalise or stigmatise others. And we should explore the impacts and lost opportunities of this. This session, then, builds on ideas established in those which it follows. And in particular, we're concerned here again with the notion of culture, with the cultural mismatch between in-school and out-of-school understandings, and the potential of greater alignment between the two. However, where, in previous sessions, we focused on culture as a general concept, the behaviours and expectations which underpin the home and the school, here our focus is more specific. We're interested in culture as sets of experience and understanding which are seen as legitimate or otherwise by society and the groups within it. In the context of school, then, our focus here is with the curriculum. And we might adopt a rudimentary definition here of this as a set of knowledges and understandings which have been deemed to be significant, and which therefore all children should experience and engage with in education. When we talk of education in this way, we are in part referring to the official curriculum, which consists of the formal knowledges which have been laid out as stated aims by the education system and by schools. In the British context, the national curriculum, a government document, weighs heavily here. We're also concerned, though, with the unofficial emphases and outcomes which surround school life, all of the incidental learning which occurs through the routines and relationships of school life. We call these the hidden curriculum. The curriculum, then, can be seen as a body of culture, a collection of socially significant knowledges and understandings. It is not, however, a comprehensive account of all of the ways that we as a society understand the world, nor could it ever be. Rather, it is a sample which has been selected, and this raises an important question. Who gets to decide what is significant and important in the curriculum? For some, proponents of what we call a liberal education, the answer to this is simple. The curriculum is constructed on the basis of social consensus. Its content reflects those knowledges which are the pinnacle of human achievement, and the selection process is based on a broad and balanced experience of these important understandings. Others have suggested that the curriculum is a social construct, and that its emphasis reflects differential power in society. In short, they argue that the curriculum is written by white, middle-class European men, because these are the people who are most likely to hold social power. As a result, the curriculum reflects their priorities and their interests, rather than any intrinsic worth or value. The result is a bias in curriculum, which favours the children of those powerful social actors who have the experiences which schools value. Other experiences are marginalised and stigmatised, and the children who hold them find themselves disengaged from education and disenfranchised from achievement. This sense of curriculum bias extends to the message that is sent about who has produced that valuable knowledge, overemphasising the contributions of white European men and marginalising those of other cultures and backgrounds. This in turn sends powerful messages to children. In this session then, I'd like to suggest that an engagement with Ausubel's principle of focusing on what children already know needs to be taken literally, that the experiences and understandings that they bring to school are not just incidental, but central to who they are, and an opportunity to scaffold learning. In particular, I'd like us to explore the ways in which children's popular culture has the potential to act as foundations or starting points in the learning process, and that basing learning on existing interests not only offers pedagogic benefits, but also better senses of motivation and engagement. It also sends a message to children that they, and the things that they're interested in, are valuable and important, shaping identities in positive ways and producing practice which nourishes and enriches. This is not to say that this is a straightforward claim, and I'd also like us to explore some of the tensions and dilemmas relating to the use of popular culture. The most fundamental for me is that in focusing on what children are interested in, we don't challenge or provoke them with new experiences. Further, we can't abandon those prescribed outcomes of the curriculum. These are ultimately there for a purpose. Pragmatically though, I'd like us to consider a middle ground here, and imagine for a moment a creative practice which embraces children's understandings and experiences of the world, and doesn't cast them as incompatible with formal knowledges prescribed in the curriculum. Rather, I'd imagine these as mediums and conduits by which these outcomes can be met in a more responsive way.